So today we're going to do a different kind of ship updates. Recently we had seen two kind of really good deals come out. There was obviously the Talon and the Shrike. I mean, everyone figured that was going to come in at $250. It came in at $90. A lot of people were, kind of pumped about that. Some people not so much. Oh my God, you can buy a game or two games for that. And then there was, of course, the recent release of the Cutlass Black and the Rock. That package alone, $140. So you were getting those both at a discount, at a decent discount with LTI. And I was like, that's a deal. And no, you can buy 3 games for that. Oh my God, who would spend money on pixels? Well, for one, I would. And here's the reason why. This is World of Tanks, and this is my Type 59. Now, those of you who know the game and know the tank will understand that I've had this tank for a very long time. I purchased this the last time that they went on sale. Now, why would you go and pay for a premium tank in a free-to-play game? Well, because premium tanks make more money, they make more credits, and you can use them to level up crews, generate free experience, to unlock other tanks, so on and so forth. Economically speaking, they're the easiest tanks to run in the game, and they very rarely do not turn a profit. You have to be a pretty bad player to not turn a profit in every single match with one of these tanks. There are some drawbacks with them, obviously, but overall, I can't remember, but I think it was like about the $45 that I spent on this thing. Have I received reciprocal value for it? Many, many times over. This has been kind of an economic godsend in the game, though its accuracy still, after all these years, leaves something to be desired. But I have never once regretted this purchase, and to be perfectly honest, I've always kind of felt that not only for the showmanship factor, but for the fun factor, having this tank has just been hilarious fun. And so, would I get rid of it? Nah, I don't think so. Do I regret buying it? No. What would I have done with that $45? Yeah, I guess I could have gone out and got another game if it was on a bit of a sale. But why? When I have derived more than the same amount of enjoyment out of owning this vehicle in a game that I actually want to play for more than 3 months before I go like, oh well, time to buy the next game. Now let's return to the world of Star Citizen. This is, of course, my Caterpillar. Costs a little bit more than a Type 59. But let's look to the future of Star Citizen. If I were to go and simply purchase, a game package with an Aurora or a Mustang, my financial prospects for the first little while are going to be a little bit rough. I'm going to be a little bit challenged. Maybe not horribly, but things aren't going to be all that easy. Whereas with the Caterpillar, even with the very limited systems that we have in game right now, you can immediately see the advantages of the Caterpillar. And not just when some little cutie in an Aurora, or what is that thing called again? An Arrow, tries to take some pot shots at you. It's very adorable, but you can see the economic advantages of owning a ship like this. You can see the benefits and how this is something that is going to accelerate your gameplay. This is something that's going to help you get ahead when the money counts. Now, for some people, it doesn't matter. I just want to be a fighter pilot. Cool. Great. I'm not making fun of that whatsoever. But for those who have different ambitions or more long-term ambitions, an investment like this makes a little bit more sense. Because if you're planning to play Star Citizen for a month, 3 months, 4 months, maybe a year, then starting off with just a fighter might be fine. But if you're planning to play over the long term, if you're like me, you're one of those people who doesn't buy a new game every 3 months, but is still sometimes playing the same games 3 years later, it's kind of a different story. One of the things that you'll often hear when you hear people talking about their ships in Star Citizen is they'll say, this is my combat ship, this is my money maker. That's often a distinction that you hear a lot of people make, and they'll describe their hangar in those respects. Those are generally people who are long-term game players. These are the people who are still playing Skyrim. These are the people who are still playing Freelancer or other games. They think about games over the long term. They're not thinking about it 3 months and then I'm out, gonna play something new, Battlefront 3, whatever. They don't think like that. Players like us who stick with games for years and years and years, oftentimes we take a very long and practical view on things. Someone playing WoW, for instance, might look at, heirloom gear that allows you to level faster as being overly expensive and therefore not worth it. It costs too much gold. But a player like me, who's played the game for so long, understands the immediate value of something like that and goes, oh, okay, over the long term, this is something that's going to pay off handsomely. Now, there is a downside to it. And you'll see a lot of people talk about this. And there is a certain amount of buyer's regret in the Star Citizen community. And it is kind of one of these kind of elephant in the room topics that we have to address. Some ships have not lived up to the promise that we hoped they had, or they would. Other ships have just not materialized. I often remark that the people in Star Citizen that I feel the most sorry for are the Banu Merchantman owners, because they have just been cast aside, and that, to me, that is just it's just gotten to a point where it's just so outrageous. It's just like, why is this ship not done? And there's a lot of little things with a lot of ships that you'll often hear me talk about. Certain ships have not lived up to their potential, or certain ships have had their potential curtailed by bizarre design choices. So, oftentimes you'll hear me complain about these things, or complain about cockpit views or stuff like that, and very things that have a very practical impact in the Star Citizen universe. I was about to say Star Wars. But, and people will sit there and say, oh, Minion, you're a Star Citizen hater, and then in the next video I'm a fanboy. So, when I get both sides of those opinion, I feel that I'm doing my job right at that point. But there is a certain amount of buyer's regret, and there's a certain amount of pushback on a lot of these ships. And these are important things to talk about, because CIG does have a problem realizing that it's not just about aesthetics, it's about practical usability in a three-dimensional space. One of the ships that I'm a huge proponent of is what I feel is the ultimate starter ship in Star Citizen, and this is one of the ships that kind of kicked off a lot of these comments recently, is the Cutlass Black. It is, I believe, currently the third most owned ship in Star Citizen. If I were to start the game with an Aurora package, I would be like, well, you know what? I can get around. I can do some basic things, and I can start to explore the Star Citizen universe. But a player who takes that much more longer term point of view is going to look at the Cutlass Black and see the immediate value of it. If you've never really stuck around a game for a long period of time, you may not understand that. That's just a whole other kind of algebra, a whole different kind of math than you're used to. But a long-term game player will look at the Cutlass Black and know the doors that it kicks open, and understand all the possibilities that just explode out of a ship like this versus just owning an Aurora or a Mustang. And that's kind of where I feel that a lot of players kind of make their mistake, and this is where they stumble, is that there are certain members of the Star Citizen community who are single player game players, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to be derogatory or anything, like all these single player games, they're bad, and all the people who play them are bad. It's nothing like that. It's just that they're coming at it from the idea of, I'm going to play this game for this long, and then I'm going to move on to that game, and then I'm going to do Cyberpunk, and then I'm going to do the next thing and the next thing. And so a game like Star Citizen, it's interesting to them, but at the same time, they don't understand that it's not really marketed towards you. Like, Star Citizen we're getting very close to getting to another very touchy topic, and I don't want to make like a 2-hour-long video, but MMO players, long-term MMO players, this is who Star Citizen is kind of geared towards. We are the players that are still playing Skyrim, are still playing Freelancer, are still playing all these games like years and years later. And when someone says, oh, hey, you know, have you checked out this game? Have you checked out Valorant yet? Or, Escape from Tarkov or PUBG or whatever. We're just like, I don't even care. It's like you're talking to a wall. That doesn't matter. What matters to me is, grinding out this and then going and finding that and unlocking this and all this stuff. When we get into a game universe, we get into it. Like, we sink our teeth into it. We're not there for a month. We're there for a year. We're there for a decade or even more. And so when we look at something like this, or we look at something like a Caterpillar or a Reclaimer or a Polaris or a Corsair, whatever, we see the immediate value. We see a level of mathematics that is just not apparent to the average person. It's kind of like one person can look at a mountain and say, oh, that's a pretty mountain, and another person can see the layers and go, oh, you know what, this is the product of tectonic plates colliding together, and that's those layers in the mountain, those are all sedimentary layers of rock. And whereas another person goes, oh, it's just a pretty mountain. We see a level of we see the value in things that a lot of people, it just doesn't appear to them. And so I think that where people kind of trip up and they start going like, oh my God, a $90 fighter, it doesn't make sense to me. That's just ridiculous. It's because Star Citizen isn't really marketed towards you, because you're only thinking of the next 3 months, the next year. And that's fine if that's the way you approach it. But another player is looking at the Talon and they're thinking, that is going to be the fighter that I am going to fly for the next 5 years, and that is going to be my ship.